Guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Keep sending those questions and suggestions. I get to them as soon as I possibly can. One of the new features that was added in firmware 1.2.56 is Preset MIDI, which allows you to send up to 5 MIDI commands just by switching presets. This opens up a lot of possibilities for you folks who use MIDI on stage or in the studio or even, enthusiasts. There's an awful lot of gear that responds to MIDI commands. Amps, pedals, digital audio workstation, lighting controllers, and more. Now for you folks who have never used MIDI before, or you really don't know what MIDI is, but you're interested in watching this video, let's do a very basic MIDI primer right up front. MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface, and it was first used back in the early 80s to connect various keyboard and synth gear. It was designed to have a universal set of commands that could be understood by another piece of connected MIDI gear. You can send program change commands or control change commands. When you use PC or program change commands, you're telling the external gear to switch to a specific preset. When you use CC commands or control change commands, you're telling the external gear to do a specific command. Turn up the reverb mix, turn down the gain, turn up the master volume, change the tempo and the delay, and so on. Now, some of you may refer to control change commands as continuous controller commands. MIDI uses 16 channels, so that means that you can send channel-specific messages to your gear. You can connect up to 16 pieces of gear in most applications, each on their own channel. I have no doubt that there are more complex MIDI switchers on the market for the guys that have those huge pedal boards or huge racks of gear. But for the majority of us folks, 16 channels is what you can use, and usually that's way more than enough. I have 3 pieces of outboard gear that respond to MIDI, but 2 of them are for my keyboard rig on the opposite side of the studio, and I don't have cables long enough to include them. So I'll only be using 1 channel and 1 piece of outboard gear for this video. Another thing worth mentioning, the Tone Master Pro sends MIDI messages using the 5-pin MIDI out port, not the USB port. Hopefully that will get updated at some point, but right now your external MIDI gear will need a standard 5-pin MIDI port in order to connect to the Tone Master Pro. You can also get a MIDI to USB converter cable, but those require power at the USB jack. For example, a Boss ME90 can't connect to the Tone Master Pro via MIDI because the USB-C jack on the ME90 isn't powered. Now a question you might have, if you can control up to 16 devices, how come the Tone Master Pro only has 1 MIDI in port and 1 MIDI out port? How do you connect to all of those external devices? Well, the MIDI out port on most gear also functions as a MIDI through port, so you can daisy chain the gear. For example, you could connect your Tone Master Pro to your bass player's Tonex pedal, then you could connect the Tonex pedal to your keyboard player's keyboard, and finally you could connect the keyboard to your rhythm guitar player's modeler. With those 3 external pieces of gear all set to their own MIDI channel number, you can set up presets on your Tone Master Pro that would automatically send the correct PC commands to change the presets on that external gear. Your bandmates wouldn't have to worry about choosing the right preset for any given song because you'll be taking care of that using MIDI. Here's a much simpler example. Let's say that you own a Tonex pedal and you have some captures of some amp models that the Tone Master Pro just doesn't have yet. You can connect the Tonex pedal to your Tone Master Pro using one of the effects loops, and then you'd also connect the Tonex pedal to your Tone Master Pro using a MIDI cable. Again, you could set up presets that send the correct PC commands to change the presets on the Tonex pedal. You could also send CC commands that would change various parameters in the preset you might be using on the Tonex pedal, such as reverb, compressor, noise gate, depth, and many more. If this sounds like something you might be interested in, let's open the Pro Control app and see how we can set it up. I created 4 new presets that will include the Tonex pedal in place of the amp block. I've connected the Tonex pedal to the Tone Master Pro using FX Loop 1, and then the Tonex pedal is set to use MIDI channel 1, and I've also connected both units with a MIDI cable. Now here's my first preset, it's using FX Loop 1, because of course Loop 1 and Loop 2, if you use those, they have to be the first blocks in the preset because they're the analog loops. And only the Tone Master Pro has analog loops. Then I'm using the stereo tape echo and the large plate reverb. So I'll step through the presets on the Tone Master Pro and we'll see what happens on the Tone X pedal. I'm going to use these Tone X presets. Number 6, a 1964 Vox Berkeley using a Morgan 212 cab. Number 32, an orange OR120 using an orange 212 cabinet. And number 100, a matchless HD30. And for my final test, which does control change commands, I'm using preset 14, the orange OR120 using the bright channel in high gain mode. Fender makes it very simple now to set this up with preset MIDI. Go to your preset and click on preset settings down on the bottom of the screen. Now click on preset MIDI. First, you'll set the MIDI channel to match the MIDI channel on the Tone X pedal, which is set to 1. Now we click on program change, which is used to change the program or preset on the Tone X pedal. Tone X lists the program change number in the Tone X app on the far right of the preset listing. However, Tone X starts counting at 0 and Fender starts at 1. So you need to add 1 to the Tone X program change number. So if I want to use the 6th preset, it's actually going to say that the program change number is 5 on the Tone X pedal. It can be a little confusing at first, but you'll get the hang of it once you try it once or twice. Select 6 as the program change number. Now hit the back arrow twice and save your preset. My next preset uses Tone X preset 32, and the third preset uses Tone X preset 101. The fourth preset is the one where I do a control change command demo. All right, let's step over to the Tone Master Pro and see how this sounds. All right, guys, right now I'm on my Doug B's BFG preset. Now let's see what happens when I change to my first Tone X preset. Now let's change to my next one. And now we'll change to the last one. And now we'll switch through them. Alright, did you notice that the Tone X pedal switched presets immediately? Now the display lags a little, but the preset change is instantaneous. That makes for a really good pairing with the Tone Master Pro. Now as for CC messages, they're similar to PC messages. You choose the MIDI channel, the CC number, and then the parameter value between 0 and 127. So for example, if I wanted to make sure that the reverb was off on the Tone X preset, I'd choose MIDI channel 1, I'd leave PC set to off, I'd set the MIDI CC number to 79, because that's what controls reverb on the Tone X pedal via MIDI. And then the parameter value would be 0, so that means no reverb. All right, let's see how this preset sounds. Right now on this next one, it'll switch the preset and it's going to turn the reverb down on the Tone X pedal. I do hope that my explanation of the preset MIDI function made sense to you, but if you're still not getting it, drop me a line. I'll do what I can to help you understand it. Now, in order to make it work, you need to know the parameters on your external MIDI gear that can be adjusted. But most manufacturers provide a list of those parameters. Now, I've recently put out videos going over switchless bypass, switch link, dim, the updated amps, and now preset MIDI. All this is from the new firmware 1.2.56. And if there's any other topics you're interested in having me cover, let me know and I will do my best to add it to the schedule. All right, guys, now I will have all new content next Wednesday. You don't want to miss that. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. All right, guys, have a fantastic weekend, and I'll be talking with you next week.